I've been getting a lot of questions from you ladies about this topic. And so I thought I would do an entire call on it so we can all kind of get clear on it. And you can all be a little bit more educated after this, okay? And basically what I want to answer today is, what are macronutrients? Because that word is being thrown around like crazy nowadays. So what are macronutrients? Are they important? Do they help? Should I implement them? Kind of everything to do with that word and what it means, okay? Now, before I go into it, have you heard of the word macronutrient before? Show of hands. Yeah, it's quite popular. It's thrown around a lot. Maybe you've even tried a macronutrient diet before. Has anybody done that before? Tried something to do with macronutrients? Yes? No? Yeah, okay. So basically, there's kind of like two things that make up the food that we eat, okay? Micronutrients and macronutrients, okay? Micro, it means small nutrients. Pretty simple. Macro is the bigger nutrients, okay? Micronutrients refers to like vitamins and minerals. So like magnesium, iron, and like vitamin B, those things, okay? And then your macronutrients, there's three big ones, and basically your macronutrients are what causes your food to have calories, okay? Is this making sense so far? Ooh, now you're all listening. There's like, calories, what? So your macronutrients is how to get your calories, okay? Now, when you look at a piece of food, okay, usually a piece of food will contain all three macronutrients, okay? And those macronutrients are carbohydrates, fats, and proteins. Have you heard that before? So the three main macronutrients: carbs, fats, and proteins. Pretty similar or simple. We've heard those terms before, okay? So usually when we look at a piece of food, it will contain all three of those macronutrients to some degree. But usually when you look at a piece of food, it's heavy in one macronutrient, okay? So it'll be higher in protein, higher in fat, or higher in carbs, okay? And because of that, you can kind of now group food into certain categories, into certain macronutrients, okay? So if I told you guys to name off some food that's high in protein, what would you say? Put it in the comments. So what do you think food that's high in protein are? This one's fairly simple. We hear this word thrown around all the time. Exactly. Chicken, meats, exactly. Animal products, egg whites, cashews. Ooh, that's a good one, Arlene. I'll get back to that one. Yeah, so usually when you hear protein, it's going to be meats. It's going to be animal products like yogurt. Greek yogurt's high in protein. Egg whites are high in protein. Fish, soy products as well. So those are pretty much high protein foods. And for the most part, we're pretty familiar with those, right? We can look at food and be like, yep, high in protein or not, right? But then with the carbohydrates and fat, it gets a little bit trickier, okay? So if I were to say, name some carbohydrates, so some carbs, what would you say? Put it in the comments. What do you think examples of carbs are? So you got rice, bread. Everybody's like, bread. We got some bread eaters on here, do we? Sweet potatoes, fruit, pasta, exactly. So when we think of carbs, we think of heavy carbs, right? We think of rice, lentils, quinoa. Those are carbs. Bread, those are carbs, right? But there's also carbs in fruit. There's also carbs in vegetables, okay? And there's lots of carbs in like junk food, right? We know there's carbs in junk foods, like Skittles, carbs, right? So there's lots of different types of carbs, okay? And we'll go back to that in a second as to why that's important, okay? Because usually, like, you know, carbs are kind of like the devil, right? Everybody thinks they're the devil. Like, you can't have this, don't eat carbs late at night, carbs make you fat. That's what everybody thinks, right? But there's so many different types of carbs. So when someone comes to me and they're like, yeah, I'm eating no carbs, but they're eating a ton of fruits and a ton of vegetables, well, you're having quite a lot of carbs, right? So this just tells me that we just don't even know what's in our food. So that's kind of partly why I want to go through this talk today too. And then fats, okay? So what do you think foods high in fat are? Foods high in fat, give me some examples. Butter, yep. Nuts, cheese, you guys got it. Yep, you got it. Oils, yep. Nut butters as well. Yeah, any nuts and seeds. Yep, you guys got it there. Avocado as well. Avocado, people think it's either a vegetable or a carb. Very high in fat as well, okay? So now you have a general idea of kind of which food fits into what category, okay? And now I kind of want to give you an idea of kind of what each macronutrient is for, so we can better understand why we need them, and we can kind of choose more wisely which ones we need for our body and our life, okay? So protein, okay? A lot of people, when they hear protein, the common thought is too much protein, it's going to damage my kidneys. Has anybody heard that before? Or anybody been afraid of protein shakes before Fit Queen because they thought, oh, it's going to damage my kidneys? That's a common thought process that's been around for quite a while. But that's just not the case. There's very, very little studies done that show the long-term effects of high protein diets. In fact, there are a couple, but it's like insanely high amounts of protein, which no regular human ever gets close to. So that's a myth. Protein is very important for two things, ladies: for building muscle and for repairing muscle. Okay. You do not want to lose fat and look like a stick figure, right? That's not what you want. You don't want to look like a 10-year-old boy when you lose weight, right? You want to look shapely. You want to have nice lines, right? But to do that, you need muscle underneath your fat. You need muscle to give you the shape. That's why, you know, genetics can be played with. So even if you're cursed with bad genetics, we can still build the body you want, as long as you have a high protein diet, right? We can build the muscle. When you build muscle, you increase your metabolism, because the bigger the muscle is, the more calories it needs to survive, right? So more muscle equals a faster metabolism. And then protein is also important because it's going to help you recover faster. So who's ever been very, very sore after a workout? It hurts to sit down on the toilet. It hurts to go down the stairs. Everybody's looking at you weird. Oh my goodness. Side note, this is a hilarious story. So one time, we had Kingdom of Iron, Ryan and I owned a gym, and we would do, every now and then, we do the quarter-mile lunge challenge. So we do a quarter mile, which I believe is 400 meters of walking lunges, okay? And when I tell you, I could not walk. I could not put one foot in front of the other. It was hilarious. And at the time, we were living in a condo with an underground parking garage, and there was a gradient down to the car. There's like a little ramp down to the car. I literally like threw myself down the ramp. I could not step down. I was like, I was like, ah! Anyway, side note, I just remember that. So in those situations, protein is so important because it's going to help speed up the repair. All right. When you work out, you're tearing your muscle. That's what the pain is. You're tearing your muscle, little micro tears. And when they repair, that's how they grow. They're growing bigger and stronger. And so protein is going to help them repair faster and grow bigger. Okay. Without protein, you're going to be more sore for longer. So protein is really important to decrease that soreness, so you're not throwing yourself down parking garage ramps. All right. That's protein. Now for carbs, okay, carbohydrates are not the enemy. They're not the enemy. A lot of women that come to me are kind of just deathly afraid of carbs, and they don't know why. They just, you know, they avoid them, or they feel guilty about having too many of them. And it's just because, you know, you hear so many things over the years. And let me tell you this, okay? Carbohydrates are your body's main fuel source. Your body is made to burn and use carbohydrates. We've literally adapted for that to be our main energy source. So when you cut it out, you're going against your natural body's function. So carbs are not the enemy. What's the enemy is, you know, ice cream and all that stuff that's unhealthy carbs. But even that can be healthy in moderation, right? So carbohydrates are not the enemy at all. Any food is unhealthy. If you have 5,000 calories of broccoli every day or 5,000 calories of McDonald's, it doesn't matter. You're going to gain the exact same amount of weight. A calorie is a calorie is a calorie. Now, it may affect your mood differently. It may affect your health. But as far as weight goes, a calorie is a calorie, period. So carbohydrates are not the enemy. They're very important for keeping you focused throughout the day. Okay, so you do not have spikes in energy. Would anybody say that they get spikes throughout the day? So they kind of have highs and lows in the day. Or maybe you like crash in the evening. So sometimes if that happens, it's probably because you're not timing your food properly, which I'll go into as well. So carbohydrates are your body's main energy source, okay? It's the easiest form that we can use to break down and create energy in our body, okay? So they're not the enemy. And now fats, okay, fats are really important because fats are going to help increase your nutrient absorption. So make sure you're actually getting nutrients from your food instead of just pooping it right out, right? Because you can eat healthy and still lose weight, but that doesn't necessarily mean you're healthy if you're not absorbing the nutrients from your food. Has anybody heard of leaky gut before? Does anybody have leaky gut? I guarantee almost everybody on here has a degree, actually. It's like a plague in North America, leaky gut. So leaky gut just means your body's inability to absorb all the nutrients and you just poop it out. So you're kind of wasting your food. There's no point. And so fats help to absorb nutrients, and they also help to regulate our hormones. And that's why if anybody's been on a weight loss journey for quite a while, or if you've tried to lose weight in the past, your menstrual cycle got irregular. Has that happened to anybody? It stopped or it went irregular. And that's kind of what happens if you either lose weight in it for too long, like it's a prolonged period of time, or it's really drastic. Okay. When I was losing weight, I did lose my period for about 4 weeks because your body, or no, not 4 weeks, 4 months, because your body is just self-regulating and getting used to it. So that's why fats are really important, especially as women. We are meant to have high fat. In fact, we're meant to have a higher fat concentration on our body because our bodies only think we're made to bear children. Just like evolutionary wise, we are built to bear children, and that's what that's how our body stores fat. You know, you wonder why your thighs, you can't burn that little squeezy thing on the excess of your thighs, or the pooch under the belly is so hard. It's stubborn because our body doesn't want to get rid of it. That's why it's been so stubborn. Our body's like, nope, you might still have kids. I'm holding on to it. So fats are important to help regulate our hormones, to make sure our menstrual cycle stays healthy, to make sure our mood stabilizes, right? Can anybody say sometimes their moods are up and down, or they get spikes in emotions and they don't know why? So sometimes it's due to a lack of fat or lack of the right fats, okay? So now, that's kind of what each one does. Now let's talk about how we break this up in our daily routine, okay? So the good thing about Fit Queen is we kind of do all the math for you. So you don't have to sit there every day inputting food into an app or calculating anything. Like, that's just not going to work for the average woman. You guys are busy, right? You guys don't want to walk around with a calculator. That's just not convenient. So we do all the work as far as calculations, but just to give you an idea so you guys can start to look at food differently, as far as your daily fat intake, okay, what's the proper amount? So usually you want about 20 to 30% of your daily calories to come from fat. And that's a safe, healthy amount to make sure your hormones stay functioning properly and you're absorbing nutrients. 20 to 30%, okay? As far as protein goes, the rule of thumb is usually 0.5 to 1 gram of protein per pound of body fat, or per pound of lean body mass, body weight, we'll say. So if you weigh 100 pounds, you can eat 50 to 100 grams of protein a day, okay? So that's how you generally calculate protein intake. And then carbohydrates, that's the easy one. They kind of fill in the gaps for the rest of your calories, whatever's left, okay? So why do we need to know this? Am I losing anybody on the math yet? So this is why we need to know this, okay? And this is going to completely blow your mind. This is going to change the way that you look at food. Every single time you're going to be looking like, oh, do I really want that now? So listen to this. So for every gram of carbohydrates, for every 1 gram of carbs, there's 4 calories. For every 1 gram of protein, there's 4 calories, okay? Now for every 1 gram of fat, you guys know how many calories are in it? Have you guys heard this before? Take a guess. Take a guess. Let's see what your mind's thinking. There's going to be some crazy numbers in there. You guys are funny. 100. Holy smokes. No way. So for every gram of fat, you guys are funny, there's 9 calories. For every gram of fat, there's 9 calories. So that means there's more than double the amount of fat per gram than carbs or protein, okay? Which is not a big deal, but here's the thing, right? I get women coming to me all the time and they're saying, I don't understand why I'm not losing weight. I'm eating healthy, right? Did anybody before they joined Fit Queen, did they think they ate fairly healthy or they made healthy choices? Does anybody think that? But then they were like, well, if I'm eating so healthy, why is my weight not moving, right? And the reason for that is because you're probably eating a lot of high-fat foods. So it's taking you out of your calorie deficit and it's just making you maintain. Even though it's healthy food, it's not food portioned properly or chosen for weight loss. Big difference there. So, you probably have a smoothie in the morning with chia seeds or avocado in it or peanut butter in it, right? High-fat foods, high calories. And then you have, cheese on your egg yolks. You have like 3 eggs in the morning with your egg yolk. So it piles on. So it's funny because just because you're choosing healthy food doesn't mean that food is going to create weight loss. There's a difference between eating for health and eating for weight loss, right? Have you guys realized that? There's a difference. Now, if you have the right weight loss coach, you're going to be healthy losing weight, right? But it has to be health and weight loss combined. It can't just be health. Otherwise, you're going to maintain and you're going to be pulling your hair out wondering what the hell's going on, right? So that's kind of the measurements there. Now, like I said, this is kind of cool because, you look at a piece of food. So now if you look at your food labels, you can look at a piece of food and be like, okay, so this has 20 grams of protein in it, right? So how many calories are in that? So you just do 20 times 4. And what is that, 80? So you're getting 80 calories from the protein in that food item. So it's kind of cool to be able to do the math. You're like, oh, so this is getting, so another example would be like peanut butter. So peanut butter is usually like 90 to 100 calories per tablespoon, right? And it's pretty much pure fat. So you're getting a lot of calories from just fat. So it's like, is it worth it or not? Because that now when you know these details, you start to look at food like money, right? You're like, do I want to spend my money on this or do I want to save it for this? Do you know what I mean? We're a little bit more careful at withdrawing from our bank because now each thing has meaning, has value to it, right? You don't want to waste your money frivolously. You don't want to waste your calories frivolously on things that you're not going to enjoy, on things that are going to make you feel like crap, on things that don't keep you full, right? Because how many times have you eaten, a big bag of chips or a tub of ice cream, but you're hungry like 30 minutes later? And then you spiral and go into a huge binge because you just can't satisfy yourself, right? And that's an example of choosing the wrong macronutrient, the wrong type of macronutrient for the situation, right? There's a difference between falling off and like the wagon bursting into flames, right? If we can catch it early on and we can figure out, what am I missing in this moment? What macronutrient would help me? And then which type of what type of food in that macronutrient I want to go for, it can really stop things like binging or snacking in its tracks, which is really, really cool. So what I want you guys to take away from this is, not that you have to sit and do math all the time. Like, again, Fit Queen does that for you. But what I want you to take away from this is change the way or start to reshape the way that you're looking at food, right? So if carbohydrates are meant to be your main source of energy, do you need a carb right before you go to bed? Do you need energy right before you go to bed? No, you're going to bed, right? So then you would rethink. You'd be like, okay, my body does not need this, right? So every time you choose a food, every time you're eating, you're saying, okay, why am I using this? What's my body going to use it for? And is it going to help me do that thing the best as possible? And then you're able to make much more informed decision. You're able to stabilize your mood better. You're able to keep yourself full longer. And you're just able to be a little bit more connected with food. Instead of looking at food as good and bad, now you're looking at it as this has a purpose, this doesn't, right? Because I really don't like saying food is good and food is bad. There's no such thing as bad food. There's no such thing as bad food. And when you start associating it and saying this is bad for me, then you start feeling bad for having it. And guilt is never a good emotion to have about food because that never ends well. So you want to start to look at food as this is the purpose, this doesn't have a purpose. And then you want to go for the one that has the purpose, right? If you want a little burst of energy before a workout, right, you would choose a carb, right? You would save your carb for that meal, right? And then you could even take it a step further and be like, okay, what carb am I going to need to have the energy for the workout, right? So would I want a big bowl of rice sitting in my stomach before a workout, digesting slow? No. Would I want maybe an apple that's going to digest really, really quickly and give me that spike in sugar? Yes. So you can kind of choose which macronutrient is appropriate for whatever your schedule looks like, and then which food type is going to satisfy that purpose. And then it's much easier to understand why you're choosing this instead of this. And you're not saying, okay, I'm sacrificing this, or I'm depriving myself of this. Because now you're saying, no, I'm feeding my body this because it needs this for this. And then it kind of just rewires the conversation we have in our brain about food, right? Because if you guys remember what your holidays usually look like, so Christmas, Thanksgiving, right? After you have a bunch of food, what are you ready to do? You're ready to take a nap. You are ready to take a notch off your belt and take a nap. And maybe you have even taken a nap. I'm guilty of taking a Thanksgiving nap before dessert. I'm guilty of being there. I've been there. But why? Because your body usually it's because it's in a food coma from carbs, right? Potatoes, stuffing, corn, carrots, high carbs and starchy veggies, just high carbs. It's an overload. It's that spike in energy from those carbs and then a huge drop. And that drop is what causes you to want to sleep. So that's an example of how, choosing the wrong carbs in that moment is causing those negative side effects of want to take a nap. Like, really? Really? We ate so much, we need to sleep it off? How crazy is that? Who are we? How gluttonous are we as humans? What is that? It blows my mind, and I've been so guilty of it, just stuffing myself so uncomfortably full, and then taking a nap because I wanted to sleep away the pain and wake up ready to eat some more, right? But that's not the way it needs to be. And especially for those of you in the Fit Queen program, you know that it's moderation. You can eat what you want. You can incorporate free meals in a way that you're still satisfied. You don't binge eat, and you don't have to say no to everything. So then when you are presented with something, you're triggered and you binge and you end up having to nap, right? So just take away the fact that food has a purpose, okay? Stop looking at it subjectively. Stop looking at it emotionally. I like this, I don't like this. I crave this, I don't crave this, right? This is good, this is bad. Stop looking at it emotionally and look at it as its purpose. And when you do that, it becomes a lot less stressful because you're not in this trap of, I want this, I want that all the time. You're like, well, I need this, I need that. And the good thing is, once you start to eat healthy, your body craves more healthy food, right? Does anybody crave some healthy foods? Does anybody get excited to wake up and eat their breakfast? That's me. Like, I'm literally like, get up, I barely snooze my alarm anymore because I'm like, oh, I get to eat my egg white omelet, and I get excited, right? Because your body craves that stuff. So over time, you actually are able to choose that purpose wisely. You're able to kind of silence that voice in your head that's been so strong for so long of just have one bite. Just one drink won't hurt, right? Or picking off someone's plate, or, you're cooking dinner and you're nibbling while you're cutting, right? Those little habits that we built over the years that we don't realize are there, but they don't hold a purpose for your health. They are just a space filler, right? How much of your time is just filled with either eating or thinking about eating? Too much space. It's a distraction we use because we're bored or we're procrastinating or we don't want to deal with the emotions we're feeling in the moment. Food is used as a distraction. And as long as it's used as a distraction, you will always be a slave to it. Because in those quiet moments, in those silent moments, food always creeps up. It will always creep into your mind. When you're trying to have thoughts, when you're trying to silence your mind, food will always show up, right? And you guys know what I'm talking about? Food always pops up in your mind, right? You can't wait to get home and have what's waiting in the fridge for you. Or you get pissed if someone ate what you were going to have in the fridge, right? You're looking forward to it all day long. You get home and you can't find it because someone else ate it, right? And it has a big emotional effect on us. It really does. Like, you literally get legitimately angry at that person. It's just food. It's just, make something else. You'll have that food again, and you can have it tomorrow if you want it really bad. Just make it again. It's just crazy. So I really want you guys, when we get off this call going forward for the rest of the week, your homework, your challenge is everything you're eating. I want you to ask yourself, what is the purpose? Like, what is my body going to do with this going forward? Is this the right choice? Should I switch it up, right? Do I know that I get afternoon cravings? If I do know that, maybe I should have a heavy carb for lunch instead of a piece of fruit that just goes right through me, right? And you can start adapting things for how your body's responding throughout the day. And then you really, number one, you really start to respect food more because it becomes important, right? You never disregard something that has a purpose. It becomes important, and then you really start to show yourself how much you respect your body, because now you look at food as fuel instead of a space filler. Does that make sense, ladies? Love it. So comment down below what you're taking away from this. Comment down below your revelation from this, or something that you need to work on, or something that, you know, I said that really rings true to you, or that you've been suffering with for a while. I find men tend to view food that way. Yeah, what I find with men is that men view food as a way to unwind. Like they just want to come home, kick their feet up, and just, you know, gorge. That's what I find. It's a relaxation tool for men, I find. Food is a need, not a want. Absolutely, Cheryl. It's a need, not a want. But I don't want you to get so hung up on the need side that the want side gets neglected, because when that want, you don't feed that want voice, then you're in danger of the snacking and the binging, right? Because both are important. It's a balance, right? Whenever you live in extremes, even in healthy extremes, it's only a matter of time till it swings in the complete opposite direction, right? Because we've all been on a health kick before, and then it just completely flipped, and it was embarrassing, and it was probably disgusting how we treated our bodies, right? What else? I want to look more carefully at what I am consuming, how to help my body function better and also feel better. Exactly. You know, food is literally medicine. Food is medicine. And I believe that in my soul. Food has cured cancers. It has healed degenerating discs. It has so much power that we haven't even tapped into. But even just starting to accept that, even like spices and herbs, like go crazy with those in your foods. If you're finding your food bland lately, go to the grocery store, look in the spice aisle, close your eyes, and just pick one and be like, I'm going to figure out a way to use this. Go crazy. There's nothing to lose except being healed with the power of food. I need to listen again to figure out the math and see what is good. Yes. So definitely rewatch the call. You don't need to focus too much on the math I talked about. The math is more so you kind of get to know the skeleton of the nutrition side of things that we provide for you guys. And then you take that and use that towards just, again, shaping and changing how you view food. Calories are calories, but you need to consume the right nutrients. That is key, right? Because I'm sure you've all been on restrictive calorie diets before, just like now, just like with the Fit Queen program, but you felt like shit. You felt like shit. You were tired. You were grumpy. People were calling you the B word because you're so moody and snappy, and you were craving everything, and you couldn't wait for it to be over so you could finally have a cheat meal, right? Same calorie deficit, but the quality of food you were eating wasn't, right? Because you can eat, 1,500 calories of McDonald's every day and 1,500 calories of Whole Foods every day and still lose the same amount of weight. But which one is sustainable long-term? Which one's going to help you live longer? Which one's going to help you feel better? That's important too. And that's what a lot of programs are missing. They have the basis of how to lose weight, but it's just not something you enjoy doing. And if you do not enjoy doing it, you're not going to freaking stick with it. So they're underserving all the ladies out there. And that's why I'm so passionate about talking about this stuff.